This chapter begins where the first one ended, an unexpected reconciliation with a distant friend and mentor. Dervish, now a rebel merchant working closely with the Hidden Ones, revealed to me that Ali was taken to the Khurasan Gate guardhouse. However, this information came a few weeks before I arrived in Baghdad. As such, it was imperative that I followed up on it immediately before the trail grew cold. After a brief conversation and changing pleasantry about seeing each other once again, I made my way to the guardhouse. It was not too far from Dervish's shop, and so I arrived within a few minutes. The place was a well-built fortress, standing tall just before the city's Great Wall. There were multiple guards patrolling the different levels of the fort, wary of potential intruders. Even Enkidu was met with deadly force. And so I looked around the area, searching for a way in. A hole in the wall, a collapsed platform, or a neglected corner that guards do not frequent. I was looking for an opportunity I could use. Eventually I found it, an overlooked part of the construction. At first glance, a normal person would not think of attempting to climb through it. It is a fair distance above the neighboring roofs, and with dozens of guards waiting on the other side, there was no real reason to intrude the gatehouse. But for a hidden one, trained in the art of subtle infiltration, it was a golden opportunity. Right as I entered the gatehouse, I spotted two guards overlooking the courtyard. They were whispering and laughing about something, so I decided to investigate. I jumped into a nearby hay pile and listened carefully to their chatter. It would seem that there is hostility between one of the guards and the scribe. The guard believes that the scribe is on a power trip simply because of his higher rank. But most importantly, one of the guards mentioned that there is a prisoner list somewhere in the gatehouse, one which the scribe wrote himself. With this information, I now have an objective: find the prisoner list and find out where they took Ali. So I repositioned myself higher, which gave me a better vantage point and allowed me to draft an effective infiltration plan. I decided to scale the southern walls, leaping through window frames and balconies. The guards would not think to check here since there was no conceivable way someone could reach it. I then dove into a pile of hay, came out without anyone seeing, and found my way in front of the locked scribe's quarter.
This looks like a scribe's quarters.
I immediately noticed the key hanging from the scribe lounging in the courtyard. He was walking towards the other side, and so I had to be patient. A few minutes later and the scribe was right in front of me. He was checking something out and was preoccupied, giving me the perfect opportunity to steal the keys. I hid once again in the shadows beneath a shrubbery until he was away from the front door. Once he left the vicinity, I entered the quarters and found a list of prisoners.
A list of prisons.
With the list in hand, I climbed to the roof of the scribe quarters, thinking that the darkness of the night would protect me from being seen. But one of the guards spotted my ascent. By then, I knew I had to escape. I could not stay any longer, nor should I engage in a fight. I climbed up to a nearby wall and made my way to an open window, a good escape route I managed to take note of while I was observing the fort. As I leapt out of the streets, the sound of ringing bells revealed my crime to the city. But darkness was on my side, and the guard should not have seen my face, only the white robes that I adorned. Once the alarm stopped and the guards called off from their hunt, I made my way back to the bureau to report my findings. From the list I managed to steal, we learned that Ali was being held in the most well-guarded prison in Baghdad, the Damascus Gate prison, a place no one wants to be in and a prison that a few could escape. But due to our dire need of Ali's presence and influence, I had to find my way inside whatever dungeon he might be in and free him from its bars. And so without wasting time, I met with Fulad just by the Damascus Gate prison. I was to infiltrate the prison alone, but Fulad advised me that I could use certain tokens to enlist the aid of some of the common folks. After Enkidu and I scouted the area around the prison, I spotted a merchant who seemed to have the means to help me. I approached this merchant and offered him a token for his troubles. With shocked wide eyes and an obvious penchant to the token, the merchant agreed to my proposition. I posed as a helper, carrying one of the crates inside the prison, and without opposition, I managed to enter the prison unseen, hidden in plain sight. I departed with the merchant once we arrived at a storage room. Fortunately, the room extended to the prison's inner walls. This allowed me to navigate the halls with almost no risk. I passed a couple of unaware guards, and made my way into a courtyard where groups of prisoners go to commune. The bundle of prisoners standing around allowed me to hide in plain sight. I skulked through them as if I was part of the conversation and was meant to be inside a depressing citadel, as I did not want to be caught like a ship in the midst of a lion's den. I successfully crossed the courtyard and entered the southeastern wing of the prison. Unsure where to proceed, I stalked one of the guards up until we reached the second floor. I paused for a moment and observed the guard's routine. It would seem that one of the guards fixes himself in a crucial point, while the other one patrols the further end of the hall and back. Since one of the guards does not move from his position, this meant that I had to take him down. Not wanting to take away his life, I used the sleep dart to neutralize him. Once he was dozing off asleep, I made my way just before the end of the hall and managed to hide under an archway.
Taunting the new kid and stealing his food.
The sleeping guard distracted the other patrol, giving me more than enough time to sneak past them unseen. As I navigated deeper into the prison, I found myself before rooms split by curtains. From my position, I counted 3 guards in the room. 2 were affixed in their position, while the last one walked from one corner to another. This posed an intricate challenge, since I did not want to alert any guard, nor did I want to bloody my blade at this moment. Eventually, I opted to once again use the sleep dart to neutralize one of the guards and make my way through the curtain maze. As I crossed under the curtains and into the corner, I found a disturbing scene, a guard punishing an already injured slave. Without hesitation, I forced the punisher to fall asleep, saving the injured and ensuring my passage to the next area. I slowly snuck my way to the next area, using my heightened senses as I moved about. I knew I was deep inside the prison, but there was still no sign of Ali. This only meant one thing: I had to go deeper. I opened the barred door that is blocking the next area. Here I found a lone guard, busy reading a book in the darkness. He was somewhat already distracted, but I did not want to take any risks, so I decided to light my torch and throw it across the room.
That?
This gave me a brief window to move from one end of the room to the other. Once the guard returned to his position, I silently dropped down to what seemed to be an entrance to a dungeon. Roaches littered the pungent and cold steel gate. The halls reeked with despair and foul intent. As I delved deeper into the dungeon, I found who I was sure to be Ali, a smug prisoner talking back to his captor. At first, I didn't want to use my blade against the guard, so I put him to sleep with a dart. However, Ali refused to respond to my inquiries unless I blooded my blade. Aware of the dark deeds that may have happened in the cells and committed by the same individual, I allowed Ali to influence my action. I took my blade and pierced it through the flesh of an enemy. With death littering the room, Ali and I made our greetings.
Basim, friend to Noor.
He revealed to me that there is a note, a journal perhaps, containing orders and information about where Al-Gul might be going next. So we ventured back up into the prison, motivated to retrieve information about Al-Gul. We passed the distracted guard in front of the dungeon without problem. I even had to open a locked door and the guard was too deep into whatever he was reading to notice. Eventually, we were back to an area I passed before. The way to the guard's room where the journal might be was just right in front of us. However, the 3 guards on the floor were positioned in a way that prevented us from entering the room unseen. There was no other way to proceed but to use a distraction. I equipped my smoke bomb and used it to cover our path to the guard's room. Swiftly, I opened the door and ran straight to the room. The guards were now aware of our presence and were barging at the door like wild dogs clawing their way into a rabbit's burrow. Ali searched the room for quite a while I held off the guards from breaking in. Once we found the journal, I instructed Ali to escape while I slowed down the guards. I moved away from the door and allowed the guards to barge in. I feigned aggression by drawing my blades and parrying an attack. Before I left the rooftop, I used my throwing knives to destroy the bell and prevent a citywide alarm. As I destroyed the bell, one of the guards managed to graze me with his sword. Fortunately, it was a minor wound and I had more than enough strength for an escape. I moved away from the prison's vicinity and hid in the streets until the guards abandoned the chase. Whilst traversing the streets to pass time and heal the minor wound I took, I found posters that painted me as a criminal on the loose. So before I left the city to meet with Ali and Roshan, it was imperative that I lose the guards' attention. I took down posters illustrating my face and paid a town crier to influence the people and clear me of any repercussions. I resupplied as the previous conquest consumed much of my tools and proceeded to cross the desert sands and meet with my companions. I arrived at the mill and saw Ali addressing his rebels. Here I saw the influence and power he holds and why the hidden ones support him. To the people, he signifies their closeted will to stand up to oppression. He was the voice of the speechless, the courage of the scared. During the meeting with Roshan and Ali, Beshi returned to the scene injured and exhausted. He was the survivor of a mission in which he learned about Al-Gul's current whereabouts, the Caravanserai. With this crucial information, Roshan decided that it was the perfect moment to strike. Ali was a bit hesitant, wanting to eliminate Al-Gul himself. However, Roshan insisted that I do it, and it was so. Briefly after the discussion, Roshan and I rode to the Caravanserai with one goal: bring down Al-Gul. Upon our arrival, we immediately set our eyes on the target. He was indeed in the Caravanserai, looking over the market from a balcony towering over the landscape. Knowing where my target was, I looked around for opportunities that could aid me in my quest, one of which was a merchant, so set in living, but frozen in his tracks because of Al-Gul's influence. If I could help him retrieve the items taken from him, it would raise Al-Gul's attention, making him vulnerable. Guards were everywhere, and it would be risky to simply walk into the area without cover, so I enlisted the help of some idle merchants to walk with me into the marketplace, acting as a moving cover from the guards. While exploring the inner areas of the market, I met a young man who needed help. This man, along with a few others, were bound by contract to work under Al-Gul. They seek their freedom from the slaver and have asked for my aid. So now, I have another opportunity. To free these men could beg on Al-Gul's anger and force him to come out of his hiding spot. I further explored the Caravanserai in hopes of finding the items taken from the merchant. However, it was located in a spot that may be challenging to traverse. Fortunately, nearby was a man who happened to be the person carrying the contracts for the slaves. When asked how much he would part with the men, he gave me an offer that no simple folk nor I could give. But little did this person know I was Basim, master thief of Anbar. Light as feathers and swift as a hawk, I snatched the contract from his purse and disappeared into the crowd. I returned to the young man and handed him the contract. With this in his hands, there was no scripture that tied him to any master or man. With this done, it was just a matter of time until Al-Gul came out to vent about the disruptions to his work. However, while I was waiting for Al-Gul to come out, a guard managed to spot me. I had no idea where he came from and how he became aware of my presence, but I had no choice but to hide. Al-Gul was about to come out any second, and I needed to deal with the hostile. So out of some primal instinct that I could not control, I hid in another room, anticipating my prey. My mind and my body was prepared to take a life. However, this foe was no ordinary one. My heightened senses failed to detect him, and he moved so swiftly that I could not anticipate his next move. He managed to land a strike on me, denting my armor and causing a bit of bleeding. I repositioned in a wider space, giving myself more room to move. He quickly followed me, but I parried his next attack and landed a couple of vital strikes. We exchanged a few more non-connecting hits until I managed to end him. But right after I finished him off, I found myself surrounded by guards. I escaped by the hair of my teeth through the use of smoke screens. I ran up to the stairs leading to the balcony in an attempt to eliminate Al-Gul before the alarm was raised. I flew through the sides of the western wall looking for a way up to a vantage point. However, I only found myself in another engagement, but this time I was at a great disadvantage. A stray arrow barely missed me and hit the guard I was fighting. Realizing the danger I was in, I decided to leave and attempt the assassination on another day. I successfully escaped, but not before one of the guards landed another hit on me. Fortunately, it was not fatal, and I still had complete mobility. With a close escape, I wanted to retreat, collect myself and think on my failures. However, I realized that if I let Al-Gul escape that day, I may never have a chance to do it again. So I returned to the caravanserai once the situation calmed. Al-Gul was still on the balcony, perhaps confident that I had fled with tails behind my legs. But this was his big mistake. With a deep breath, I readied myself for the assassination. I destroyed the bell before I entered once more to prevent another alarm. I scaled the western walls once more, but this time I was unseen. Within seconds, I made it into the rooftops, and below me was my target. Without hesitation, I took it, my first target as a hidden one. But a few moments after the assassination, a phantom from the past returned. The genie that used to haunt me in my dreams. When I returned to my senses, two guards were preparing to attack me, and out of my instinct to survive, I took them both down as swift as the wind. I was astonished by my own abilities and began second-guessing who I was. But just before the abyss pulled me down, Roshan reached out and raised me back out. We departed from the area and briefly discussed the events that had unfolded. I revealed to her that the genie from my past has returned, a haunting memory that may be a herald of something horrible or worse. Roshan granted me a short respite to attend to this matter, as well as to visit an old friend, Nihal.